part of QHacks, and so we've already started developing the technology. Where we are today is we are using an OpenAI-powered chatbot to accept user leases, and this user is then able to ask it any questions about the document that it just uploaded. So it can be something as simple as, am I responsible for shoveling snow? Or what happens if I lose my keys? Something like that. But it can also do, please simplify this document for me. I don't understand it. I need the key points. Or is there anything wrong with it, essentially?
So yeah, overall, we're really excited to continue developing this project. We obviously were pulling from our own experiences being renters. However, this tool would be applicable to all Kingston residents, people who don't speak English as a first language, for example. Reading a complicated document is a daunting task. Any other first-time renters. So yeah, we're very excited to continue developing it. And thank you so much for having us.
Okay, I think I can figure out how to work the button. So congratulations. Really interesting idea and really taking advantage of the massive leaps in technology. Who else is doing something like this?
So large language models exist for other legal document parsing. So once again, that's like tokenizing the text and making sense of it and comparing it to what is out there and what exists is correct. However, we did not find like a specific lease one, especially like we could specify our models and train it on data exactly for Ontario. So it would be very specific to the city of Kingston and to Ontario leases. So there exists a lot of tools such as like the machine learning software and the large language model software. However, the direct implementation of leases for Kingston and a model that is specific to that, we couldn't find anything of that sort.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Really interesting idea. And I think you've hit obviously a big issue. I'm just curious to know is there like a revenue model kind of attached to this? So I'm just curious, like, would you envision that people would pay like a fee to use it, or are you envisioning like there'd be a contract with a municipality and the municipality would offer it to people living in the community? I'm just wondering if you've thought at all, is it an advertising model, just what the revenue would look like?
Yes, so absolutely. Our main priority is accessibility at the forefront. And so ideally, I think we would have a partnership with cities and focus on making it accessible to all citizens who need it.
So very interesting idea, and nice job with your pitch. Have you thought about any kind of liability considerations? And what comes to mind is Air Canada recently found out that having a chatbot doesn't absolve you of liability. And so I'm just wondering, in a case like this, you're offering sort of quasi-legal advice, whether or not you've got any concerns that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the current limitations that exists within AI right now is, say I'm using ChatGPT and ChatGPT isn't like 100% certain of this answer, it'll still spit out an answer as if it was 100% certain. That is a limitation that exists today. And so right now, we're gonna focus mostly on pointing things out and saying, hey, maybe you should look into this. This doesn't seem entirely sure, but we can't be certain. It's flagging issues instead of saying, this is wrong, this is right.
Another thing that could also be implemented, machine learning in general, it also creates a confidence with every classification and prediction it makes. So if this was an issue, we could also feed that information to the user. So this is the prediction we're making, and this is the confidence we have in this prediction, aligning with our data set. Expanding the data set also makes the model smarter, better, trained, better learned, and better able to predict. So yeah.
think just the idea is that you're getting our clients would be more confident in what they're getting into. So maybe there wouldn't be 4 applications, right? Like you would have, that's the thing is, especially with Kingston, I know from personal experience, we kind of scramble as soon as we get the chance for a place, but we're not sure what we're even agreeing to. So it's more just actual comprehension of what the lease itself is.
Also, if a tool like this was implemented on a larger scale, we're hoping that it would lead to more accountability from a landlord point of view as well. For example, if everyone was aware that this lease has this clause that you sign it and then later you realize, oh God, I'm responsible for this, or they said this, and now like I've put my name on this legal document and I'm like obliged to do this or whatever. If there is this process beforehand, we're hoping that the landlords will take more accountability as well. And realize that, yeah, they must be accountable for what they're putting forward as well, and that they can't just get by sort of tricking students or giving us these really bad deals.
Well done. We're off to a very strong start. So thank you very much. All right. Thank you. We're going to move on to pitch number 2, Greenhaven Modular Team. Can I ask Lucas, Rahan, and Deanne to come forward? This is a pitch detailing affordable, sustainable modular housing. Very exciting, very topical. So welcome.
Hello, good morning. Thank you very much for the opportunity. We appreciate it. So we decided we're going to start off by playing our video for you, just to give you an idea in case anyone hasn't seen it, and then we're going to follow up that. Okay, so whenever you're ready. Hello, we're Team Greenhaven from St. Lawrence's Project Management and International Business Programs. I'm Lucas LaFont, and I'm here with Rehan Jackie and Dionisis. Our project is focused on a unique modular home design concept made in collaboration with St. Lawrence students and faculty, as well as local experts, with the objectives of maximizing affordability, sustainability, and scalability. We saw a niche that needs to be filled in the housing market, and we saw an opportunity given resources available in Kingston and the new technologies that can be leveraged to help housing-related problems. We're here to answer the question, what is the best that we can do here in terms of cost, true sustainability?
Currently, the housing market isn't producing enough supply to keep up with the demand. After speaking with large traditional builders, it became clear that this is because they aren't incentivized to. Larger homes means higher profits, especially when supply is low, and so that's what gets produced, even though there is an increasing demand for smaller, affordable, and environmentally sensitive housing. Younger people, first-time buyers, newcomers to Canada, students from abroad, and low-income households are all being locked out of the market. This in turn is making the homelessness crisis worse. Modular housing is an industry that is poised to take off. After speaking with dozens of local builders, it is clear that they can increase supply if given the proper support and are able to produce housing that is cheaper, more convenient, better for the environment, and can be easily scaled to meet fluctuations in demand. Through collaboration with local builders and support from government-affiliated agencies, we aim to further develop a highly efficient design that can be independently overseen and licensed as needed to local producers.
The project was designed with the city's goals and sustainable development goals in mind to create maximum impact possible. Given the resources we had in hand, facilitating better housing options can bring down prices, reduce homelessness, and has been shown to help reduce crime and substance abuse issues, as shown in the Finnish Housing First model. In terms of the SDGs, we are convinced that this concept can have significant impacts on poverty by providing low-cost housing, build up our city's green energy footprint, place Kingston at the center of a growing industry, improve the region's long-term sustainability. The elephant in the room to address is that this is an ambitious idea, but any impactful solution will always require as much. by breaking the process into achievable, well-defined steps, and by creating a solution that can provide a win-win-win scenario for the city, local residents, and local businesses. The support so far from the community at large has demonstrated that the will is there. Further, all these concepts and technologies have been tested elsewhere. We have simply drawn on the best available options and pulled these together to find the right solution for Kingston. We would like to take this opportunity to thank all of those who have shown their support so far. Thank you very much for listening.
So I don't know if the volume was great on that, but we will elaborate a little more and take questions, of course. So if we can get the first slide. Great. Okay, so affordability in the housing market is usually defined in terms of rent or mortgage as a percentage of income, with 30% being a red line, beyond which households struggle to cope. So based on our research, an increasing number of households in Kingston are facing a ratio of 50% or more. Our project sought to address this critical need. We realized that to do this, the right housing design is kind of the secret sauce. Affordability has to be a consideration, and this much was clear. But we also wanted to ensure that these houses would be sustainable, as this is a key consideration for the city and, of course, for the planet. The goal we set ourselves was to refine a design concept that could meet a largely empty niche in the market. We wanted it to be self-sustaining in terms of water and electricity, as well as being as low in cost as possible. By leveraging innovations in both technology and design, we aimed for a flexible design that could cater to the housing insecure, to first-time buyers, and even to remote First Nations communities. We also worked to find a solution that's tailored to Kingston by utilizing locally available resources and establishing partnerships with local experts. Yes, that's the next one there, yep. So here's where we got our inspiration. The Finnish Housing First model is based on the idea that if you make housing people your top priority, this will lead to better outcomes for them, for society, and for the economy as well. The city already does this with programs for the homeless, and our concept, particularly if administered as a charitable endeavor, could help to bring this model to a largely underserved demographic, the housing insecure. We saw that traditional builders are not incentivized to build low-cost housing, and this, combined with the convenience, portability, and scalability of modular, is why the modular framework for this design made the most sense. Some important design features were also influenced by earth ships, and these are an approach to sustainable design from a somewhat unconventional but innovative architect in the United States. So these are built for sustainability from the ground up and can operate fully off the grid. They utilize recycled and repurposed materials wherever possible and have a carbon footprint that puts traditional housing to shame.
So in our talks with local experts, it was made clear that material choices, passive features, and innovative technologies all work in parallel to make a home truly self-sufficient and sustainable. The points listed here are a few of the recommendations that came of our consultations with local builders and the experts at SLC. With a low price point as a primary goal, we found that the final cost of these homes would be roughly half of a traditional house. Basic frames that start at around $100,000 with additional features and technology integration about $50,000, while ancillary costs are estimated to be similar. With the city's assistance, we could have the ability to conduct a more comprehensive feasibility and legal studies, which would enable the next phase of the project to start on the right foot. And every idea and data point in our design has been meticulously vetted. By seeking the validation of at least 2 SMEs for each suggestion, we have ensured the feasibility of each concept. Also, as mentioned, these technologies and materials have been tested in similar projects but tailored to meet Kingston's needs. We've acknowledged potential risks, challenges, particularly legal and regulatory. However, the city's expertise can help to mitigate these challenges and ensure a smooth implementation of our concept.
Thanks, Dion. In conclusion, we are excited about the opportunity to collaborate with the City of Kingston, and together, we can make significant strides towards addressing housing challenges in our community, while promoting sustainability and innovation as well. We recognize the expertise and resources that the city can provide, particularly where legal and regulatory issues are concerned. Furthermore, by refining the business and charitable aspects of this concept, in collaboration with the city, we can help to ensure long-term viability and scalability. With these issues addressed, we would then be in a position with the city's mandate to consider applying for provincial and federal funding. This not only propels the project forward, but also positions Kingston as a focal point in the modular housing industry. We envision Kingston as the epicenter of innovation and progress in modular housing, and together we can make the vision a reality. I would like to thank you all for considering our proposal, and we eagerly anticipate the opportunity to work together towards a brighter future for our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. Wonderful presentation and great space that you guys are focusing to deliver some solutions on. My question is more around the cost framework that you had specified in around $200,000 cumulative, if I'm not mistaken. I'm assuming or hoping that you've evaluated competition. What I'm trying to understand is, there are other models out there building the same or similar at less cost?
I actually did some background research on this with modular builders throughout Ontario. I went to a trade show the previous year to sort of get an idea of what's already on the market. And we find that a lot of the models that are available, they sit more or less at this price point, but if we really focus down on reducing unnecessary expenses, we can drive it even lower. And also economies of scale. We spoke with local producers that said that if we scale up production, then that would drive down the cost as well.
Your Worship. Oh, Rob, sorry.
Hi, fantastic presentation. I really like the idea. It's building on the popular tiny house, right? What about the cost of land, and where are these going to go, and proximity to schools and groceries and transportation? Have you considered that into your cost model?
Well, actually, the legal and regulatory, we're sort of putting that to the next phase, doing the research. That's what we want the city's help to do. We do know that the regulations in Kingston are already quite amenable to modular housing, which positions Kingston really well to take advantage of this market.
Your Worship.
Yeah, thanks for the idea. There's no question that modular housing, we can tell we're kind of on the cusp of what I think is a real transformational moment in housing. So I think you guys are right in that right space. I guess my question was, at the end you were talking about applying for federal and provincial funding. So I guess my question is this a market solution where you're bringing the price point down, and that ultimately this can just work as a market solution? And if so, what would be the purpose of the provincial and federal funding? Are you looking to bring costs down even further, or I'm just wanting to understand how that intersects with this model?
Okay, as we mentioned, this is a supply and demand issue, the housing issue, and the traditional builders are able to fill that demand. So what we wanted to do with this idea is to have this design that we can sort of license out to local builders and utilize that to help build their business in tandem with petitioning municipalities locally to do the same thing Kingston has done, to relax their regulations. And the intention is in the long term to, yes, have this scale up rapidly, and then it can make more of an impact on the market.
Jim.
Just to come back to the land question for a minute, have you thought about the pathways you might be able to get access to land? I mean, there's things like land trusts, for example, and of course, one of the questions might be the inventory of city land, and as we've seen with the veterans housing up near St. Lawrence College, for example. I'm just wondering if you have any strategies for how you might sort of partner with people to get access to land.
Well, actually, our sponsor is Lisa Osanek, and I want to give a special thanks to her for listening to us and hearing our idea out. And she mentioned, actually, that the city does have a lot of influence in how the city's land is used. So we'd love to be able to get access to some of that land in order to prototype and then we'd like to move on from there.
Okay, in the interest of time, we're going to wrap it up. So thank you very much. Well done. All right. Boy, got some amazing ideas right off the start. Right, pitch number 3 is food insecurity fighters. I love that name. Where is our team? Oh, there we go. Very good. All right, microphone.
Sorry, just getting technologically set up.
Good morning. We are the Food Insecurity Fighters, and we are here to present an innovative solution for the 16% of households in the KFLA region that live with food insecurity. The cost of food security in Kingston is $1,207, and this number is unattainable for families of 4 living in fixed incomes, such as Ontario Works and Ontario Disability Support Program, as well as for families working full-time or part-time. Notably, in Kingston, food insecurity is more prevalent in the community surrounding the Rideau Heights Community Center. We understand the various outcomes of food insecurity, such as being more likely to experience poor oral and mental health, heart disease, and chronic pain. We also recognize that sustainability and community engagement are pillars in facing food insecurity. Communities that have established networks with local organizations create food supply of quality produce. With this in mind, we propose establishing aquaponics, a sustainable and profitable agricultural food production system.
Just to provide you guys all some context, aquaponics refers to an agricultural technique that cultivates plants using water and aquaculture. So this is namely fish, but we can also use prawns, crayfish, snails, whatever water-based animal that you can find. And then we raise them very comfortably in a tank that's part of the overall aquaponics system. And then as they live, they do standard animal things. They may not eat some of the food that they're given because they're picky, they defecate. And then over time, this results in the buildup of aquatic effluents, which would be toxic to the fish if we didn't clean it up. However, the aquaponic system contains a biofilter, which houses bacteria that converts the waste into very easily absorbable nutrients for the plant, and this basically fosters their growth. So green leaf vegetables such as cabbage, lettuce, kale, watercress, they're very well adjusted for the aquaponic system, and others such as tomatoes can be managed with more mature systems with higher stocking densities of fish. On the topic of the fish, freshwater species are typically used because of their high tolerance for crowding and the production of nutrient-rich fecal matter. And so things like tilapia are a fantastic option if you intend to eat the fish once they mature, and goldfish can also be used if the fish don't actually have to be edible. As for the geothermal heating system, it basically refers to a method of using the earth as a medium for heat exchange. And this basically means that even while we experience the scorching heat of the summer or the freezing sub-zeros of the winter, the temperature a few feet underground remains relatively consistent throughout the year, and this enables us to precisely control the temperature of the aquaponic system, irrespective of what's going on outside, even if there's a blizzard, wildfire, whatever's happening. And this is especially important when we're farming in really harsh climates, such as the Kingston winter, and facilitates year-round cultivation. Just to add on, the geothermal heating system is extremely cost-effective. Based on our estimates, the additional installation costs compared to air source heating can be returned within 5 to 10 years, and the overall system life is exceptional. The internal components can manage themselves for up to 24 years, and the underground heat transfer loop can also be sustained for up to 50 years.
So, after hearing about this novel farming technique, you're probably wondering how implementable it actually is and how relevant it is to the City of Kingston strategic plan. Well, allow me to explain. According to Ripple Farms, a Toronto-based organization that specializes in aquaponics, building one of their around 1,300 square feet systems costs about $50,000, with their larger systems running an additional $10,000 to $30,000. Their smallest system is capable of producing about 60 kilos of produce a week. And while this number may come as sticker shock to some of us in the room, myself included, my team and I have devised a way to reduce and recuperate this cost of investment. So, firstly, by building inside of pre-existing infrastructure, we're able to significantly cut down the cost of construction. Furthermore, the quote I just gave from Ripple Farms includes a significant convenience upcharge because they provide you all of the necessary materials to start the system. However, there is a local Kingston aquaponics supplier that we can collaborate with to further reduce our cost. This initiative is also applicable for many large-scale funding grants, like the TD Friends of the Environment grant. And then lastly, the system and initiative will be self-sustaining and capable of generating revenue as we plan to sell a portion of the produce to local Kingston restaurants as well as small-scale grocery stores who are interested in investing in fresh produce all year round. Now, don't worry, I haven't forgotten about the strategic plan. So, by distributing a portion of the produce to at-risk community members and local partners like Loving Spoonful, we're able to increase the food stability within the city. By inviting local primary and secondary school students for educational field trips where they learn how to DIY their own aquaponic system at home, we support environmental stewardship, increase vertical farming within the city, and lastly, foster a caring and inclusive community. Finally, by situating this system inside of an at-risk community, we create job opportunities. This, in combination with our previously mentioned revenue strategy, will increase the economic growth within the city, fulfilling our last Kingston strategic goal. Thank you so much for listening.
Questions? Shan?
So firstly, very impressive. You guys are thinking big. I love that you're looking at geothermal technologies and you're looking at a kind of a closed loop ecosystem here. What are you competing against though? Why would someone go and purchase this as opposed to just going to one of the grocery stores where potentially it's cheaper and there's still no scarcity of these products, right? The cost is high for a variety of issues, but it's not like there's a shortage. So I'm curious how you're going to make that impact and how you're going to drive, I'll say, consumers to your particular offering as opposed to what's already out there.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for that question. In regards to what we're competing against, I know you're referencing large-scale retail grocery stores. And as we know from reading within the recent news articles, large-scale grocery stores have been receiving a lot of pushback from community members all across Canada because of their, let's face it, crazy cost of food. We aren't going to upcharge the cost of this produce nearly as much as a regular grocery store would. Additionally, if our price does come out to be around the same, this produce is local and fresh. So we are advertising to a relatively niche market, which is why I mentioned local restaurants who would be interested in purchasing local produce. They know how it's grown, they know where it's grown, and they know the money that they're raising is going back into their own community.
I think maybe Jim had your hand up next.
You want to go first? Go for it. Okay. So just to build on that last question, so the aquaponic piece then is really the nutrient source for the intensive farming that you're doing. That's correct, right?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Well, I mean, the aquaponics piece of it, essentially what you're doing is finding a different way of actually finding the nutrients to actually raise the, and I'm just wondering if you have a sense of the difference in, say, productivity between an aquaponics-based approach versus, if I'm a regional farmer, say with a greenhouse, for example, and I'm, finding nutrients or replenishing the nutrients in my soil from different means. Is there, Do you know if there's a big difference in the productivity in terms of growing vegetables?
Based on our background research, the aquaponic system can generate several hundred kilos of produce at optimal capacity. And while this may not compare to a large-scale farmer, we are trying to emphasize the sustainable aspect and the year-round cultivation of the aquaponic system because it is a closed system, protected from the climate, and then especially in Canada, in the Kingston region, when we can endure harsh winters or very harsh summers, heat, it can make farming and producing a lot of produce difficult. And we hope that the aquaponic system basically encourages a different method of doing that. And the fish themselves, or the aquaculture that we utilize, produce sufficient amount of nutrients as long as they're raised properly to foster sufficient plant growth.
Okay, thank you. I think next up was Zerman.
Thank you very much. What I wanted to gain a little bit more of an understanding on was kind of leapfrogging from what Jim was saying. To understand operational cost overall, I think you had mentioned for a 1,300 square foot facility, about $50,000, right? So that's a one-time cost on establishment of that, but I was looking to understand operational costs that are forward. And the second part to that is, with respect to larger scale farms and the output that they have you been able to take a look at meeting what that demand might look like, and then what that cost variance is between a larger farm and the effort that you're putting forward?
So to start off with the operational costs, so the $50,000 is an initial investment to get all the system supplies and get it up and running. From there, there'll also be a small cost for employment. A 1,300 square foot system will require about 2 to 4 hours of maintenance weekly. By maintenance, I mean someone coming in and checking on the plants. Obviously, if the system becomes larger, which if we're chosen to aim to have eventually, it would require larger employment. In terms of the maintenance cost of the actual facility itself, as Nathan had mentioned earlier, the system can last for up to 24 years without starting to break down. So that initial cost is a large one, but it definitely is a long-term investment. And the only other operational cost would be purchasing the fish, which after initially purchasing, you are also able to reproduce within the farm itself.
And if you were looking to meet that demand, so I don't know if you've looked at any other farms that are, and what level of output they have in order to meet that demand, what does that cost look like?
So the goal with our initiative specifically is to meet the gap that's found within the winter. After doing a lot of research on food insecurity in Kingston, we found that the city had a lot of organizations that aim to address food insecurity. So we asked ourselves, why do we still have 16% of our population being food insecure? Then we discovered that a lot of these organizations rely on donations from community partners and specifically local farms. These farms, being outside, rely on creating produce within the harvest season. So we're not exactly aiming to meet a large-scale farm, but to meet the gap found within the winter when that large-scale farm is not having an output.
Just to add on to that point, part of the issue that we found is that during specific periods of the year, there's actually an abundance of food. For example, Kingston has a warehouse where local organizations actually store produce that they gather from different organizations around the city. And we found that there's still a very prevalent issue with food insecurity. And so based on this, we found that a lot of these families, even with the food supply available in the city, aren't actually receiving the food that they require. And so we hope that part of our initiative, which is putting these systems within the community centers of at-risk communities, we hope that that proximity and fostering the community engagement will help them kind of bridge that gap.
Great. Last question, Elizabeth.
Thanks very much, really interesting. Based on other models like this, could you just comment on the for-profit percentage of food versus the pay what you can or pay as you go?
So based on other models, so the model that we're basing on is from Toronto, and that one is actually entirely for profit. It does reduce food insecurity, but from a for-profit perspective. our system is not a for-profit perspective. The revenue we're aiming to generate is not revenue that we are now going to take for profit. It should be reinvested back into the system. So if we're generating a large enough revenue, ideally we then build another system or a larger one to further solve the food insecurity. So I don't have a model to compare from the pay what you can model percent versus the we're selling to local restaurants.
Okay, thank you.
That would have to be determined as we go.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, just really, really quickly. Very interesting. I just want to say I'm very impressed by the amount of background research you've done on this. You've definitely done your homework. The $50,000 cost, that's just for the systems. You would actually need like a facility or some space to actually put the system. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Great.
As I mentioned previously, though, it can be put inside pre-existing infrastructure. So we would ideally put it inside of a community center. Thank you.
Very impressed with how the teams are knocking off the strategic priorities. This is wonderful. All right, team 4, Bowab. It's a platform dedicated to combating resource scarcity through anonymous and convenient donation. Welcome.
Yeah, just press present. All right, we're good to go? That's good. This is Tom. He recently lost his construction job during the COVID-19 pandemic, and now he can no longer pay his bills due to the rising cost of living. He was forced onto the street, and he is currently struggling to find work. Right now, he's looking for a pair of size 9 boots so that he can regain his construction job.
This is Jenny. Jenny's a busy mother of 3 who struggles to find time throughout her day, but she's passionate about giving back to the community. Jenny's son just moved out, leaving his pair of size 9 boots, a home alone in the garage.
What if there was a better way to connect these two people? Hi, my name is Joseph. I'm a second-year computer science student at Queen's University.
My name is Evan. I'm a second-year CS student and commerce student at Queen's.
My name's Emmett. I'm a second-year commerce student at Queen's.
And we're here to introduce Bowab. Through Bowab, Jenny and Tom can connect on the app, set a drop-off time and location, and Tom gets a new pair of boots and gets back on his feet, and Jenny finds a new home for her son's boots. So how does it all work? Well, upon initially entering the app, users are prompted to choose whether they want to be a donor or recipient. In Jenny's case, she'd obviously choose a donor, and in Tom's case, she chooses to be a recipient. Let's start with Tom. So when first entering the app, Tom is met with this screen. On this screen, he's able to see whether he wants to accept or submit requests. He's able to set a travel vicinity, which is the distance he's willing to walk in order to pick up donations. He's able to search for offerings near him. These include food, clothing, water, and he's able to submit a specific request, which in this case would be boots. Notifications on fulfilled requests would also be seen on the screen. And after he's had an incoming fulfillment, he'll be able to navigate the disclaimer and confirmation page. On this page, the first thing he has to do is accept a safety and item quality disclaimer. Then he's able to look over the drop-off location and time. And based on that information, he's able to accept the fulfillment, or he's able to request changes, which leads to a chat app. And if he needs to, he can also deny. Now let's take a look at Jenny's view. So at the top of the screen, Jenny will be able to see her credit. The credit system works by partnering with local businesses to offer discounts and promotions. These can be redeemed using credits, which are given after fulfilled donations. Now, moving on to the main section of the homepage, she's able to see a dynamic map where she's able to add offers of a variety of things such as food and clothing, and in her case, her son's boots. Notifications on incoming requests will also be seen on the screen. If she wants to fulfill a nearby offer, she's able to navigate to the fulfill page, which is, once again, a dynamic map of requests near her. She's able to click on these requests to read information of what they're asking for, and she's able to click on them to fulfill them as well. If she finds an offer she wants to fulfill, she can navigate to the set details page. Using the dynamic what3word location app, she's able to set any 3x3 location within her original vicinity, set a time, add additional instructions, and once all this detail is confirmed, it'll send a notification onto Tom's side, and if both parties accept, then all she has to do is drop it off, and her aid is on the way.
Thanks, Joseph. So for our tech stack for the front end, we're using React and React Native for the mobile and web app. Our back end is powered by Node and Express.js, and since individuals will be uploading sensitive documents like ID, we're using the CDL prevention API to make sure these documents are safely secured. Additionally, we're also using the what3words API. What's what3words? What3words takes any location, any vicinity, and divides it into 3x3 meter quadrants where Jenny and Tom can facilitate their transaction. This also means that Tom doesn't even need an address for this transaction to occur. So one of our main competitive advantages is that Bowab operates on a per-need basis. 84% of all cooling donations ends up in landfills and incinerators. Since resource distribution only occurs when a request is fulfilled, we completely eliminate any of this excess waste. Additionally, Bowab increases the total number of donator and donations. So we are not trying to replace services like food banks and clothing drives. We're here to complement them. We add a layer of flexibility to donate at any time and anywhere. This hopefully removes inconvenience as a barrier, encouraging more people to become donators. Additionally, we don't require middlemen like several food banks or clothing drives require, meaning we don't need part-time or full-time volunteers to package or distribute donations. And finally, we hope to help facilitate a culture of giving within Kingston. Now that everyone has the opportunity to make an impact within their community, we hope that everyone is more interconnected and will help build a culture of giving back to their community throughout the city.
Thank you very much, Evan. I'd like to point your attention over to our timeline, where we've established a roadmap from Q2 2024 to Q1 2025. We've honed in on 3 main buckets to ensure operational efficiency across the board. Those 3 buckets are software development, business development, and marketing. We have some key performance indicators that we want to lock in on and ensure maximum efficacy. So for App Store reviews, number of users, development velocity, and donations filled, by adhering to these key performance indicators and monitoring them closely, we can ensure that our business is going to grow effectively and efficiently. When coming up with any new product, you do inherit some risks. But lucky for you, we've come up with some mitigations. So the first mitigation for public cleanliness and littering is we do require everybody to click through a disclaimer once they go through our app. So the disclaimer will prompt them once their order is being fulfilled to place their garbage or any excess trash gathered from using our service into a waste bin or recycling bin. For lack of use, we have a dynamic marketing strategy that targets both ends of our user base using digital advertisements and some traditional advertisements like bus ads. For accessibility, it's important to note that 94% of people experiencing homelessness in Kingston do have access to smartphones and public Wi-Fi. And also, we do have a web app that can be accessed from computers in public libraries or public service centers. And lastly, for safeties for donors and donees, we make sure that every person who is donating on our application has their ID uploaded to the app, so we can track for safety, as well as a 3-strike system where you can report, and if you get 3 reports, you're immediately sent off the app. For our financial analysis, we again honed in on 3 main buckets: software maintenance, marketing, and server hosting. For software maintenance, we included things like bug support and feature enhancements. For marketing, we included things like Google advertisements, Meta advertisements, and also bus station advertisements, as well as server hosting, which includes our licensing fees and API subscription costs. Going further into our financial analysis, we can see that we do have a high cost for bus advertisements, which we do hope to mitigate with a partnership with the City of Kingston, as well as a low software development cost, because we plan to bootstrap our application with the 3 developers you see in front of you today. Thank you so much for listening. We're Bowab, making every street corner a donation center and every citizen a donor.
All right, questions, Shan? Really impressive. I love how you guys have KPIs. There must be some BCom learnings come from there. I feel like I'm back in the boardroom. How do you describe your revenue model or your actual business model? So I see this, I see there's some costs associated with it that you're looking for some funding for, but ultimately if this scales, how is it sustainable? Are you guys making money off this?
So to answer your question shortly, we are a nonprofit organization. We hope to be completely donation filled and eventually be acquired by the city and become a subsector of city service. And we want to eventually, we hope that Bowab doesn't exist, right? We're trying to mitigate the amount of people on the street and add facilities for people to be able to get back and get into the workforce. So whether that's connecting people with giving them clothes or food or boots, for example, that's where we're trying to go. We're not trying to make any money. There's no profit model.
Rob.
Thanks, guys. That's a really interesting idea. I love the amount of effort you've put into it and the research behind it. My question is, you talked about credits. Explain to me a little bit more about how that's going to work, how you are going to approach people to provide credits at their locations. Like, what's your thinking behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like one of the programs we definitely looked into was the Downtown Dollars program, and that's something we hope to integrate with our credit system as well. Obviously, we want to drive traffic into local businesses, and if we're able to reward people as a small token of gratitude by donating, then that's something we definitely want to look forward to. We really want to emphasize that the reason for people donating isn't to gain credits or to try to gain the system, but it's just a small gift that we hope to give for the community members who do wish to donate.
We also hope to partner with the BMA in Kingston and try to use the credit system as a way to get people in the doors of small businesses by providing some offers and discounts to have this circular flow of giving back to the economy. So putting people back on their feet and getting them back into the workforce, as well as getting consumers in the doors of our small businesses.
Your worship.
Thanks, guys. A really, really interesting idea. And I know you've used the example of, somebody that might be homeless, but I mean, like as a city, we do like giveaway days where like people have stuff and other people need the stuff. So, I mean, I think that there's a really broad application here. I guess my question is time. So let's suppose that someone's cleaning out their garage and they got like boxes and boxes of stuff. And think about the trade-off between just like taking it down to like Value Village and just, in like one run, a few minutes, it's gone, versus the time to catalog every item like on the app. And I'm just wondering if you could give us a sense of like how easy to use, how do we encourage people to use this versus, and I know you're trying to complement what else is being offered, but just if you could speak to like the time piece there.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, about 84% of all clothing drive donations end up going to waste. So if you were to donate that full box of clothing, about 84% of it, give or take, wouldn't actually go to someone. Bowab's main advantage, or one of them, is that we operate on a per-need basis. So a request is only fulfilled, resources are only distributed when a request is fulfilled, ensuring that we don't waste those extra clothes in that box. And then eventually, if someone else needs those extra clothes, for example, they can then put a different request for something in that box, and that can be exchanged at a later date.
Jim? Very interesting idea. And you anticipated a question that I had partially, but so you've got the sort of the seeker and the provider. And I'm just wondering, have you thought about how you would actually build awareness and, in a sense, trust from those looking for resources? So, the guy looking for the boots, for example.
Absolutely. So the way we're going to try to gain initial awareness for our product and service is through a traditional marketing system. So we're going to start with some A/B testing in the beginning, where we're going to just test different styles and see how we gain awareness to both sides and do specific. Am I answering your question?
No, you absolutely are. The question, do you have a sense that, sort of a standard approach might work, particularly for, say, the providers? I'm wondering, if, for example, I don't have a permanent address, or I'm not, I go by the library, for example, to get access to the internet. So, very interesting that on the statistic on who has phones. But I'm just wondering about, are there different approaches that you might consider to build awareness and, say, trust or confidence particularly on that side?
Absolutely, yes. So one thing we considered was bus station ads as well, because people who are lower in the poverty line and are in need of items frequently use public transit. So we decided that would be a target audience that we'd want to appeal to. So we're in combination using bus station ads and also advertisements that go along the top of the bus. So when people who are actually sitting in the bus, they can see those advertisements and kind of build that awareness.
Yeah, and currently, because we wanted to make sure that we can build this awareness and make sure that this resource is accessible as possible, we already reached out to one of the food banks in Kingston, who not only said he thinks it's great, providing more material needs, but he also gave us some constructive feedback so that we can help further build this idea. We hope to continue with the partnership further with food banks across Kingston, like this one, so that we can hopefully build awareness through them as well.
Your worship.
Can I just ask one other quick question? The name. Is there significance to the name?
Yeah, so when we were thinking of a name, so the Bowab tree is a tree in Africa that symbolizes life, positivity, and resilience, and we thought, given the service we provide, it was quite fitting.
That's great. Well, thank you very much.
We are in a race to save us. You
All right, we're going to get back to it. Tech is back in the house, so we can play our next video. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome our next group, group pitch number 5, Resource Loop. So Resource Loop is a concept about fostering resource efficiency and building Kingston into a circular economy. Very interesting topic. So are we playing video first? Yes?
We are in a race to save us.
You would be crazy to not have anxiety about sustainability right now. We have this optimistic urgency that we have to get after things.
We are on a journey to make Kingston a circular economy.
We have been spending a lot of time trying to figure out how to reduce our carbon footprint. We kept going back to this phrase called in situ utilization.
This is concept in space exploration that you create with what you find. And Earth is no different.
What if the materials that we perceive as waste turns into our future feedstock?
When we started this journey, we were looking for inspiration.
We wanted something that is really simple, but that could bring a positive change in Kingston. And that is when we looked into Amsterdam's circular economy model.
It was fascinating how they turned what was perceived as waste into opportunity.
And that got us thinking, can we do something similar here in Kingston? And then the light bulb moment. We discovered Canada's push towards a circular economy on their official website.
Let's break it down. You must have heard of recycling, right?
Now, imagine that on steroids. A circular economy is where nothing goes into waste. And that's where the entire idea of resource loop was born out of. Today, 7.5 million tons of material from industrial, commercial, and institutional sector is generated each year in Ontario, out of which 6.6 million ton is landfilled. That's just 12%. That's actually diverted and recycled.
And this is where resource loop comes in. It's like a matchmaking, but for resources. It links businesses with surplus materials with those who actually need it.
Kingston is home to over 4,000 businesses. Now imagine thousands of items available for sale and donation, all cataloged on a digital platform, stretching across partners in the city of Kingston, creating connected networks of reuse.
Let's build a better Kingston, one resource at a time. Good morning. I am Jerry Matthews Stephen, and this is Akhil and Puruthej, and we are Team Resource Loop. I know that was a lot of information in a short time. Allow us to break it down. Let me take you to a couple of weeks ago when we had this lecture on UN's sustainability goals and how Canada is actually ranked 29th among 193 countries. I mean, we're doing pretty good. If you look at the 17 sustainability goals, we are green or yellow on 16 of them, except for one, where we are actually in red. And that's goal number 12. Responsible consumption and production. Now think of this. A small city right in between Ottawa and Toronto being the first and at the forefront of tackling this challenge. And with our platform, Resource Loop, we are looking at businesses engaging in extensive collaboration of resources, ensuring there's responsible consumption and production within the confines of Kingston.
So we have talked a lot about our vision, but how do we get there? So our plan of action unfolds across 3 phases. Phase number 1, planning and the designing. That's where we meticulously design the website, make sure it's user-friendly, it's accessible, and you would be pleased to know we have already done that. We have a prototype in place, and you all saw a glimpse of it in our video. You will see more of it in just a minute. In our phase number 2, we user test our website. We make sure all the components of our website are working perfectly fine before we launch it to the public. And finally, in the marketing and outreach phase, we partner with community members and we invite the business members onto our platform. And we make sure that we increase the adoption and engagement user rate on our website through strategic marketing plans. And I believe I'm boring you all with these details. So let's talk about something which we all have mutual love for, money. So how much does this thing cost?
Alrighty, I guess I'm the money guy now. So as far as the budget is concerned, we begin off with planning and prototype. So as Puruthej alluded to, I believe we have done a decent amount of work as far as that goes already. Although one thing we would love to add to that is to do more market research. So potential subscription to services like Google Surveys or SurveyMonkey. So we just allocated for those costs in the initial phase. And as far as development and release is concerned, this is where we purchased the domain name. So we actually looked into GoDaddy. So resourceloop.ca is available for $99. And we plan on hosting this on Shopify. So when we looked at the plans, it's the plan that this plan would necessitate is under $300. So when you add plugins into the equation, we believe it should come under $800. And as far as marketing and outreach goes, not to toot our own horns, we are all marketing professionals. So I used to be a team lead in a digital marketing agency. Puruthej here used to work for a marketing agency where he specialized in search engine optimization. And Jerry actually has expertise in building digital infrastructure, with a knack on design. So the little bit of branding you've seen for Resource Loop was due to him. And as far as miscellaneous costs, we just wanted some wiggle room and breathing space because you never know with budgets. It could go out of hand, so we just wanted to account for that and err on the side of caution. So now last but certainly not the least, we just want you to have a glimpse of how a prototype website would look like once businesses sign up with Resource Loop. So
yeah, so I think it's page 1 Resource Loop, the other one, yep. So first of all, you need to register as a business in our platform. Once you do that, you should be able to see Create a Loop. And you click on Create a Loop, and you'll be able to put the title, You'll be able to put a detail type. You can add details, customize according to your requirements, upload an image. And I'm not going to explain what regular reuse is. It is basically if you have a regular reuse cycle in your business, you could actually do that. Do you want to show it to all, or do you have a category of loops that you've already built, which we'll explain? And the email updates. And if you click on create a loop, and congratulations for businesses that are looking for resources, your resource is now live on our platform. And that's what we're talking about. Thank you.
All right, Jim. Very intriguing idea, near and dear to my heart, because very interested in circular economy. I'm glad you had this example at the end. If I said, day in the life of, here I've got my reusable mug, but I'm, tired of this one, I want to get rid of it, and then I've got my plate. Now, how does that then work with your website in terms of the reuse side of things?
Right, so that's interesting. What we are doing is we are thinking through a point of view of a business, right? So let's say, for example, you, me, and both of my partners, we are in a renovation business, right? We renovate houses. Let's say I have 2 boxes of tiles that are left over after the renovation.
Yeah.
Those tiles are divided into 2 parts, so I can't give that back to the vendor, and I can't use them anymore. It's of no use to me. But there might be some other business out there that could use those tiles. So that's where the resource loop comes into. They could share those resources with those other businesses. They could sell them to the other business at an affordable rate.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a business-to-business kind of application. Yeah. Do you think there's an opportunity for, sort of making it more attractive because if I were going to base a more substantial part of my production on a reuse cycle, I'd want to have some degree of predictability of when that might be actually available to me. So I'm just sort of wondering whether you've thought about sort of materials matching sort of demand or supply prediction and those kinds of things in the website that you're looking at.
So that's where the machine learning would come into play. So as far as the website goes, the algorithm would be curated in such a way that the recommendations that would come to those businesses would cater to their needs. So that's part of the digital infrastructure. And so as far as from an individual point of view, we want to make this work. We want this to be realistic. So we want to take it one step at a time. So right now, in the initial phase, we just want to focus on businesses because, let's be honest, on an organizational level, this would have more of an impact rather than on an individual level. So this is how we are differentiating ourselves from everything else that's going on in the market.
Elspeth?
Thanks very much. And really intriguing that you were inspired by Amsterdam. Could you explain a little bit more about what the city of Amsterdam is doing? Is this a direct copy, so to speak? Nothing wrong with that from the Amsterdam experience, but maybe just tell us a bit more about what they're doing.
So we were inspired by the model that Amsterdam incorporated into the city policies, but this would be a not-for-profit organization. If we would have support of the city, that would obviously help us to amplify our efforts, but they're operating on a much higher level. They plan on being the first fully circular economy on planet Earth, and their end goal is 2050. So their vision is way larger, slightly out of scope, but that's where we got inspired from. But talking about inspirations, like there's an organization which is operating in the US of A. They're primarily based in Chicago called Reaply, and they've had massive success.
Just to add to that, the main difference from an Amsterdam model would be the digital infrastructure part. They are more into the traditional approach of doing that, and that is pretty much costly, and there's almost a lot of public funds that are involved in it. In this case, we are planning on building a digital infrastructure. This has already been done in the US. A company based in Chicago is doing it, and in the last 7 years, they've already onboarded 15,000 business users, and also that's 10% year-on growth, and almost 300,000 items listed. That's 4,000% growth each year that they're seeing. And we are trying to do that as first in Canada. That's what we
Zerman?
Thank you, guys. Great presentation. My question, again, is a little bit as an extension to what Jim was touching on. Because there's so many different categories of items that individuals or organizations would be looking to want to reuse or recycle. I didn't see on the website in your initial framework that you have there, but an area for categories, to break it down into categories, searchable field within the website to be able to search by category, right? And so that's just as a point of clarification. So yes, that's already in there, or that's things that you would add in as you go?
So just to clarify, this was just a prototype we devised on Figma and took us about 45 minutes. We just wanted to show you a gist of it,
Sure.
obviously.
Okay.
So we want to expand this into multiple sectors, but one thing I want to add on to is that we want to demarcate and differentiate ourselves from the healthcare industry and the food and services industry, because that's a whole different kind of worms with the health and safety regulations. We don't want to get into that. We are not going to go out of our way and actively try to hinder them from coming onto our platform, but based on the marketing efforts that we'll be doing, that's not going to be a primary focus.
Okay, and just lastly, customer service. Have you thought through that side of the equation at all?
Yes, absolutely. So
Yeah.
we would be having, like every other website, we would be having a contact us page. So at this stage, it would essentially be the three of us dealing with it. But as we scale up, hopefully in the future, we'd be able to have designated professionals who look after that.
Any other questions, Your Worship?
Thanks, guys. A really interesting idea. I'm just curious to know, like, when I think of Kingston, is there an example or something that you would say if you were trying to explain the power of what this could look like, where you see a natural partnership or opportunity within some of the sectors or businesses that we have here locally? You could say this would be an example of where we think there could be real value on both sides.
That's a phenomenal question. So actually, before we came over here, we actually tested the waters a little bit. We reached out to multiple organizations within Kingston. The Kingston Chamber of Commerce, for example. The KEDCO, Kingston Economic Development Corporation. We already reached out to them, and much to our delight, they actually responded back to us. They told us that they'd be happy to explore any collaboration opportunities. And if we get them on board, they have connections with hundreds of businesses within Kingston. So that takes us to a whole different level from the get-go. As far as differentiating ourselves from the competition is concerned,
Right, so it's interesting, during our preliminary research, we came across this case study where the city of Gulf has implemented the circular economy model, but just for food. And that's where we differentiate ourselves, because we're not going to focus on food, but only on the industries. And the competition, as far as the competition goes, it's all the people who have seen our presentation, all of them had a very simple question: how is it any different from Facebook Marketplace or any other marketplace out there? But the sustainability focus on our platform is what differentiates us from the Facebook Marketplace. Facebook Marketplace, it caters to consumers in a very broad category. But over here, we have the tools and we have the expertise in helping businesses with their challenges and their needs with surplus resources.
All right. Moving on to pitch number 6. Dionisis, a computer vision pipeline that tracks vehicle linearity through public access cameras. If I hadn't seen that, I wouldn't know what it is, but these guys are going to tell you what about it. Thank you.
Morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We are a team from QHacks, and we're excited to present Dionisis, which stands for Driver Impairment Observation Network, yielding safety under supervision. And so let's start by thinking about, what do you think about when you hear the two words drunk driving? Do you think about the straight line test perhaps? A reactionary measure that police use once they've caught someone suspected of impaired driving? Or do you think about the fact that every 40 minutes, someone passes away from impaired driving. Or governments last year spent over $120 billion dealing with impaired drivers. Or even worse, children ages 0 to 14, 21% of their causes of death are actually related to impaired drivers in some way. And so when we thought about the straight line test, we thought this reactionary measure simply isn't good enough. In fact, it's terrible. And so that's what led us to coming up with Dionisis, a tool which assists law enforcement in preventing impaired drivers. And what I mean by this is that we use existing infrastructure in terms of cameras that monitor highways, roads, and bridges that governments have access to and are fully capable of running a model, and we bundle this all into a tool for officers to use and be more informed. And so before I pass off to Seth to talk about more of our motivation implementation, I figure it's best we introduce ourselves. My name is Michael Hahn. I'm a second-year applied mathematics and engineering student at Queen's University.
My name is Seth Grief-Albert. I'm also an applied mathematics and engineering student at Queen's University.
And my name is Connor Leung, a second-year computer engineering student at Queen's University.
All right. So today, the excitement of artificial intelligence is really all around us. We hear about it everywhere, from work, in the news, at the dinner table. What's being talked about is these really large-scale AI projects, ones backed by the likes of Meta or Google, even OpenAI, these really massive scale. And we're getting some pretty incredible products out of that, right? We're getting ChatGPT. I myself, I use ChatGPT every day. But there's a lack of funding and dedication towards public impact through this new technology. So that's where we come in. We, as undergraduates and future engineers, are interested in leveraging technology and new advances in artificial intelligence for the good of the communities that we're a part of. So, in one sentence, what we're doing. We're hoping to help cities, our city of Kingston, tackle drunk driving incidents with a proactive approach of tracking vehicle linearity. So what we're doing, I'll walk you through our process. First, we access public traffic camera infrastructure, which is already in place. This gives us a sort of eye in the sky above our major roads. Next, we initialize a model that tracks the position of cars and plots their movement over time. We're doing this in a privacy-conscious way, so we're not taking identifiable information about the vehicles, merely the GPS location of where we're observing these vehicles and their movement. So you can see on the screen, that's the sort of plot that we'd get. Next, we're using a robust algorithm called linear regression, which essentially looks at this plot and tells us how straight the vehicle is driving or how much it's swerving. And we can get this information in close to real time. So once we have this information, what we do is pass it along to cities and police officers. So we're starting with this information. We're using existing alert infrastructure to notify the city of what we think is dangerous driving behavior. And in our research about the ethical application of artificial intelligence, we've recognized the need for humans in the loop. So what that means is that we're not giving any key power and decision-making capabilities to artificial intelligence, especially when it deals with public safety. With that being said, we're capturing a video of what we think is dangerous driving, sending that to police stations where they can use their discretion and human judgment to see if they want to dispatch resources towards tackling this driver. So we're using as much existing city infrastructure as possible, and we're actually really excited to share that we've created a working prototype, which Connor will talk about.
Yeah, thank you, Seth. I just want to first say some of our technologies. We use two main programming languages, Python and JavaScript. And with Python, we're able to use a lot of machine learning libraries, such as PyTorch, which allows us to actually have that prototype. In terms of how the user interacts with the website and interface, we use JavaScript and React to create that. So I'll quickly walk through how our web interface works. So first and foremost, we got inspiration from government websites, just because we know that police officers will be using it and they're already familiar with government style websites. This also means that we want to maintain a level of ease of use so that everyone's familiar and that there isn't a big barrier when adopting the software. As you can quickly see on the screen, it has the location, so right here, the 401 highway. Below that is the actual model being run. Normally a video would be playing, but with this it's just static. And then right next to that is the actual analysis that's currently happening. Underneath that is just some general information for police officers to take a glance at, and this would just assist in the overall assessment. There's also additional other pages for like switching between different locations, so that it's just right at your fingertips. Thank you for listening, and we are Dionisis. We're looking for.
Jim. Very intriguing idea, and great that you sort of, by focusing on the shape as opposed to, trying to grab the specific identifier. I mean, it's sort of a two-part question. The first part is do you have a sense of how you're going to monetize this? Is this a service or something that you're going to sell?
Yes. So one of the main barriers for us is like drunk driving footage isn't publicly available. I know I tried. I spent a couple of hours looking for it. But that's why we're looking for partnerships with governments, just so that we're able to tap into some of those cameras and have a lot more data at our fingertips. So in terms of like monetization, we're looking to like partner with governments to have these, to help develop the software and then implement it within the government.
Okay, and then the second part, if I might, is just more technical question. Do you have a sense, or have you had a chance to look at what people have in terms of image classification and tracking? Because it seems to me that essentially what you're trying to do is extract the velocity components, right, or maybe even the acceleration components. And I'm just wondering whether you sort of focused on linear regression, but if there's other, if you think about the parameters you might actually estimate for that.
Yeah, so right now, in machine learning, especially image classification, getting the velocity component is a little bit more tricky. So that's not entirely what we're focused on. We're focused on how essentially straight the car is driving, and we're using linear regression to determine if it's swerving a lot. This also applies to any sort of dangerous driving. And to answer your question about more technologies, one implementation is the fast Fourier transform, which essentially looks at movement, a line, and determines how wavy it is. So that's another method that we could use. Right now, linear regression is our main tool, and it's pretty robust. It's been used in government before, so
for centuries, yeah. Okay, thanks.
Elizabeth?
Thanks very much. Really, really interesting technology. And you folks sort of talked about the public good, so to speak, of AI. Do you worry at all, or have you considered any backlash for something like this, sort of the whole surveillance society? I'm old enough to remember speed cameras in vans that quickly became an unbelievable political issue, and then they disappeared. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I can touch on that. So yeah, one fear that you might have is it's like this Big Brother dystopian thing where you're always watching. That's really not what we're trying to go for. Essentially, we're taking information that's already part of the government ecosystem, and we're looking at how essentially dangerous these drivers are on the roads. And we're not. The reason we're not taking identifiable information is this is not like legal bound. It's not saying that okay, this is a drunk driver. Probably we're estimating the likelihood. We're merely capturing footage of what we think is dangerous driving, and leaving it up to the human judgment of police officers to say, okay, this is something that was automatically flagged by our system. It looks like this, and now we have a video of exactly what this car is doing, where are we going to send resources. So it's less about tracking for the use of like going after these people legally, but merely giving police officers another tool to protect our streets from drunk drivers.
Okay. Thank you. So just to be clear here, you would ping, for example, an OPP cruiser that's in a certain part of the 401 and say we've detected some really bad driving in this particular sector, you need to get on it.
That's correct.
As opposed to saying the license plate of so-and-so.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Zerman and then the mayor.
Thank you so much. Great idea. What I wanted to gain a little bit more of an understanding on was if you guys were able to dig a little bit deeper on what enhancements or expansion to the infrastructure would be required for true effectiveness in flagging. Because you're saying you want to use the existing infrastructure. So the existing infrastructure is not designed for this purpose, right? It's more, depending on where it is, high traffic areas, accidents, whatever the case may be. So have you been able to get an understanding of the existing infrastructure in Kingston or the province at some level to understand how effective you'll be in being able to ping that information? Because people are crafty out there, so they're going to use back roads, you know what I mean, when they're doing those types of things. So I'm sure you'll capture some on the existing infrastructure, but if you can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So from our research, we found that a lot of these cameras already have the capabilities to run a simple model. Whether like some of these cameras that we couldn't get full footage on a lot of these like overhead views because they're not public access, but the ones that we could, a lot of the cameras are clear enough where we can identify the object trajectory. And so these cameras over the major highways don't necessarily need to be upgraded. In terms of like back roads, we can't have like cameras on every road and stuff, and we're not trying to stop people exactly like trying to go around, go on back roads and stuff. We're mainly trying to stop these dangerous drivers in terms of like crowded areas, and also sending officers to like a lot of these outer areas is not great use of resources. We're just trying to like enhance and optimize their resource use in major urban areas.
Your Worship.
Yeah, thank you. I think just jumping off of that question, is I could see it as though, on the one hand, it's like a reactive piece, like, okay, there's a flag, we've got to go check out, there's some dangerous driving, but also more on a broader level, like you could say, okay, these are statistically where the areas or locations or the times of the evening where drunk driving patterns seem to be peaked, and so that's then giving information to police to say this is where we want to do a ride program, or this is where we want to have extra police on the street. So I do think there's a really interesting piece on optimizing police resources. I'm just curious to know, have you reached out to like police and just kind of just get their take on it? Do you any sort of sense about the value or the perspective from on the ground police resources?
Great question. We have not reached out. Yeah, our main idea was a preventive approach, but talking about like more of like the stats wise, some of these projects have been going up in other governments around the world. One of them is called Moonshot Pirates, also a pitch competition, and their idea won in Austria, and government is trying to implement it with the help of these young fellows. And so the overarching idea of our thing is to get these governments to use the data they have it's not being used in a way that could help them, benefit them. And so we think that police would be really likely to take on this idea. And overarching as a whole, like these computer vision, like if, for example, another use case, besides like watching cars swerve to prevent drunk driving, another incident or we could see is if there's a lot of cars swerving in certain spots, we can maybe identify like potholes or like construction needs to go there or rough road conditions. So it's about taking this idea and expanding it along with helping prevent something big like drunk driving.
What about costs? So you've talked about tapping into existing infrastructure, but you're probably pushing data. There's got to be some interface developed to alert law enforcement. So have you considered the feasibility and the cost aspect of this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, the models that we're running, we're using an open source model called YOLO V8, which is essentially, it's called You Only Look Once. It's an object detection model, and linear regression. So these traffic cameras are usually part of embedded computer systems. There is memory access that we can use for these computer systems to run models locally. That is a really big piece, the network side. But if you ever go on a CP24, I'm from Toronto, we have CP24, the traffic cameras. So there's already network infrastructure where these feeds are being sent. So one idea implementation is you have this live feed, you can run a model, you can run inference on that somewhere else in a data center. So yes, there is a cost associated with that. On my old computer, we were able to run these models effectively. So I think that with a decent amount of funding, we'd be able to get these up and running, at least for a proof of concept.
Okay. Thank you.
Makes me think I should have paid attention in the linear regression analysis course I took. I think I got a C on it, but anyway. We're moving on to pitch number 7, Sunday Flex. Reoccurring Sunday event facilitated by the city, meant to build relationships, foster community, promote community safety awareness, and encourage health and wellness. Welcome.
I'm Ann, and we're getting ready for Sunday Flex. What is Sunday Flex? This summer, the city of Kingston will be closing down one lane from Lake Ontario Park to Lemoyne's Point. It's a day to get on your bike, get out your running shoes or your rollerblades, and go flex in the sun with your friends, family, and community.
Hey, I'm Luciano, and I don't have bikes, so I'm going to be walking during the Sunday Flex. I want to be able to talk and get to know other community members participating that live here in Kingston.
Hi, my name is Mervin. The whole idea, the goal behind Sunday Flex is to make sure that everybody gets together and exercises out there on a very good day. And the whole idea behind doing this is to make sure that everybody gets to meet the community and interact with as many people as they can.
Our goal is to create a new tradition in Kingston, one that embodies the spirit of well-being, community solidarity, environmental stewardship, safety awareness, and fun. But our Sunday Bike Day isn't just about building relationships. It's about nurturing our bodies and minds. As we travel the scenic routes of our neighborhood, we breathe in the fresh air, feel the sun on our faces, and energize our spirits. Each rotation of the pedals and each stride of our run is a testament to our commitment to health and wellness, a commitment that echoes not only within ourselves, but within the very heartbeat of our community.
To execute Sunday Flex, we will need to secure permits from local authorities, accompanied by a traffic management plan to ensure smooth rerouting of vehicles. We will need to use one side of the road for bikers, runners, and people walking. Volunteers and off-duty officers will stand ready to guide participants and manage intersections, while medical support will be aware of the event for a swift response in case of emergencies. Temporary safety barriers and signage for the closed lanes will be put in place. Waste management teams will maintain cleanliness, while public relations efforts will drum up community enthusiasm. Moreover, our actions carry with them a promise to safeguard our planet. By choosing bicycles over cars, we reduce our carbon footprint, lessen congestions on our road, and pave the way for a more sustainable future. Every turn of the crankshaft becomes a small victory in our ongoing goal to preserve our environment for generations to come. Yet, amidst our efforts for community building, health, and environmental stewardship, we cannot forget the importance of safety awareness. And finally, let us never overlook the most important fundamental aspect of our Sunday Flex: fun. The laughter of children, the shared memories with friends, and the sense of freedom that accompanies each pedal stroke and each stride, we find the true essence of our gathering. So let us embrace the joy of the open road, relishing in the simple pleasures that unite us all.
The CDC says that when exercising with a friend, you are more likely to feel more motivated when you and your friend are able to help and encourage each other to work harder, be more adventurous, because trying something new with a friend is always easier, and be more consistent, because when someone is counting on you to show up, you feel more accountable. Good morning to the panel and everyone else attending today. Thank you for having us here to present our pitch. My name is Luciano Troiani.
I'm Ann Carr.
I'm Mervin D'Souza.
Even after COVID has settled, we are still feeling the effects on ourselves mentally, physically, and socially. Our aim is that with Sunday Flex, we are able to bring people and communities together once again for the common goal of social interaction and exercise. Kingston understands that having a healthy and social lifestyle is important, and they make a strong effort to host and promote events that create a place for positive mental and physical health to flourish. Our hope is that with Sunday Flex, we are able to aid Kingston by creating a new and fun event that continues pushing for the goal of creating positive and mental, physical well-being. In the short term, we want to get friends and families out for an afternoon of exercise and to meet new people. But in the long term, we want to create a place of inclusion and a sense of belonging for all community members.
Sunday Flex is an event where this summer, one Sunday every month, one side of the road will be closed from 9 a.m. to noon from Lake Ontario Park to Lemoyne's Point. This route will include Bay Ridge Drive, Cloverdale Drive, as well as Front Road. So imagine you're running in the sun down Front Road, you've got the water beside you, enjoying the scenery of Kingston, and then when you're finished, you get to go have a picnic with your family at Lake Ontario Park. This event will be inclusive to all. Community members can use the road to bike, run, walk, skateboard, rollerblade, and it will be wheelchair accessible as well. Participants can also choose to enter the route at different points. So you can start at Lake Ontario Park or at Lemoyne's Point or any of the chosen side roads on the route. So for example, you can park your car at Jim Beattie Park, make your way west down Henderson Boulevard, and then enter the route at Bay Ridge Drive. The majority of front road we're using is 4 lanes, so 2 lanes will be used for Sunday Flex participants, and the other 2 lanes will be used for traffic. Bay Ridge Drive has 2 lanes, so 1 lane will be used for the traffic, while the other lane will be used for the participants. To execute Sunday Flex, we will need to secure permits from local authorities. We will also need a traffic management plan to ensure smooth rerouting of vehicles. We are currently in contact with the City of Kingston for resources for our event, and we are looking to create partnerships around the city. Safety will be a big element for our event, so we will use barricades in the middle of the roads to separate the participants from the traffic. We want the event to be as safe and as fun as possible, so friends, families, and community members can go enjoy their time in the sun together.
So our main goal is to have a positive social interaction and exercise. Those are our main goals. What is Sunday Flex? Sunday Flex is basically it doesn't matter if you come first or last. What matters is you being there and engaging as you are. That's all that matters. Now, what we want to do for Sunday Flex is that we are going to partially close down Bay Ridge Road, Front Road, and Cloverdale Drive. And what we plan to do is, as soon as we do that, we want people to participate in this event as a community, get to know your neighbors, get to know your community, get to know it. Interaction is our main goal in this. The whole idea behind us doing Sunday Flex is to make sure that the community feels a sense of belonging, because like Lou said, that after COVID, our interactions have reduced way much. We're more on our devices than meeting our people and talking about our daily life. So it's an interaction event where we want people to have fun. So put on your running shoes, get your bikes out, have a nice time out on the Kingston and explore the beautiful city that we have. And thank you so much, guys, for coming here and giving us your undivided attention, and see you on the road. Thank you.
Yes, Bob. I love the idea of promoting exercise and community. I think that's great. Talk to me about costs. What is it going to cost for the barriers, for storage of the barriers, for the permits, for the volunteers, and where you're going to store the barriers when they're not being used for the other 6 days of the week? And then also, you talked about you want it to run from a certain period of time. Does that include the setup and tear down, or are the roads going to be closed for extended because you've got to set things up and then tear things down afterwards?
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, thank you for your question. So we have been in contact with both the Kingston Police as well as the City of Kingston. So to start out, we would need extra duty officers for that time, and we would probably need them for at least 4 hours, if not 5, and then we would have the route going for 3 hours. So an extra hour or 2 for setup and takedown. And those officers would cost us $109.16 per hour. And we would need 2, maybe 3, but we're thinking we'll be okay with 2, because through the Kingston Police, we can use community volunteers for the low traffic intersections, and there's 2 intersections with lights on that route, so we've used the police officers for those. So it would cost about $440 per officer per event, so about $880. And for the 4 times we would do it throughout the summer, it would cost about $3,500. We're still in communication with the City of Kingston about the barricades for storage and such, but we would know that we would need a couple extra hours, like 1 before and 1 after, for the setup and takedown.
Zerman?
Thank you. Great presentation, guys. Love that you're trying to get us to be more active. I know I need it for sure. My question again is just a little bit further on the logistics side of the question. You mentioned the police requirement, right, for security, but paramedics, medical side, have you taken into consideration liability insurance coverages, so on and so forth, all those types of things that would be required, along with, I would imagine, hydration stations and so on as you go?
Yeah, so we are already in discussion with people about how we're going to set this thing up. We're also in touch with local shops which are like JJ Cycles, for example. We've spoken to them. We are interested in asking them, if they can participate and show their involvement in this activity. And they have come up very positive on that. They are very happy that we're coming up with something that is involving people to exercise and be out there. So yeah, and we totally understand from the fact that we would require water stations and we require all these things, and we are planning to get that done.
I can also just add on to that. So for this event, it wouldn't necessarily be like a race with a start to a finish. So again, we would have like an artery of specific side roads that you can choose to enter from. So it's very much not a race. So we wouldn't necessarily need those water stations set up, but we would definitely be in contact with medical staff to let them know that this event is going on, just so they can be aware. And then as well, sorry, what was the first part to your question?
I think you're on it. I mean,
Okay.
it was just to get an understanding on the added logistical requirements, right?
Yes.
And then for medical support services as well, because you touched and answered on the policing side, but I just wanted some clarification on that.
Yes. Yeah, and again, we're in continuous phone calls and emails right now with the City of Kingston to try and get the logistics down completely at the moment.
Your worship?
Thanks, guys. It's a really interesting idea. I mean, there's lots of runs and walks that happen in the community, but I think what's unique here is you've got this kind of community building focus, which is interesting. I'm just curious, if you had to devote resources to something, I'm just thinking about the amount of money and resources required to close that much road. I'm just wondering, did you think at all about maybe using existing off-road trails like the K&P Trail or the Waterfront Trail across the city, and maybe diverting some of the resources more to bouncy castles and other barbecues that would happen before or after the event? Just wondering if you've thought through that.
Yes, of course. So first of all, we did think about even doing it through Lemoyne's Point, going the back way, but it doesn't make it inclusive to everyone. So you'd have to have specific bikes to go there. So a lot of people won't use their road bikes because it can wreck the tires. It's harder to push a wheelchair through that. You can't really use your skateboards, your rollerblades. So we wanted the road to be able to have it accessible to everyone. And sorry, what was the second part to your question? Oh, the bouncy castle, yeah, sorry. So looking forward, we are interested in growing with the community. So we would hope that in the future, at Lemoyne's Point or at Lake Ontario Park, both the endpoints of the route, we could have a Sunday barbecue in the afternoon after the event has closed, and to really be inclusive and bring community members out to that.
Thanks, guys. It's a really interesting concept. I love the idea of togetherness and exercise and just bringing people and communities together. Certainly, what happens at Skeleton Park once a year is really nice to see, particularly for that neighborhood. What kind of frequency, I might have missed that, what kind of frequency are you talking about operating this?
Yes, so to start out, it would be one Sunday every month starting in the summer, so June, July, August, and September, so just 4 Sundays. But looking forward, we would like to increase that, maybe every other Sunday, and then moving towards every Sunday. For example, there's a similar project in Ottawa going on. So Ottawa has Sunday bike days where they close down the canals, they close down the parkway beside the Ottawa River, and as well as Gatineau Park. And they do this every Sunday for 8 hours. So we would want to have a similar approach and to be able to meet that goal.
So start small, pilot it, and then
Exactly.
work out the kinks and build it. Okay, thank you.
I'd like to add something on that. When we plan to go out there and do this event, we also assure that, as per the participation increases, we can also take in ideas from the community itself on what they want to do, right? Rather than we coming up with a solution and then, not everybody participating. If somebody says, yes, let's have a barbecue, more the merrier, then we can go ahead and, actually execute that.
Elizabeth.
I don't really have a question, just a comment. I grew up in Ottawa, and it's Colonel-by Drive, and that became a massive success. And things that you might want to consider are just providing opportunities for food trucks and community members to just make it that much more of a drive, which I think is one of the lessons learned in Ottawa.
Just to add on to that as well, is we would be looking to also get involved with like the Boys and Girls Club to bring them out and to get the community to be involved. Even seniors' homes, to get them out and get walking with their families. Like we want, if they have a shuttle that can take them to Lake Ontario Park, like we want to get those people involved and with the food trucks and everything.
Jim, maybe just a very intriguing idea to link back to a couple of the questions asked before. For example, might there be an opportunity to start by just doing this based on Lemoyne Point? I get the point both about road bikes versus off-road, and also concerns that CRCA would have about trail erosion and that kind of thing. But I'm just wondering, and then sort of a medium-term goal. Might there be a case to be made for essentially thinking of a corridor between Lemoyne and LOP? That then supports this kind of activity. Because I think the benefit that Ottawa has, like, for example, with the Parkway, is that, there's enough multiple pathways that you can just close it down. So I'm just wondering whether, you might have sort of a shorter, more medium-term kind of goal for that.
Was that for the route, right? You're talking about for the route? Yeah, so I can understand that when you think about the whole duration of the route, it becomes a big challenge for somebody to, think that, how am I going to complete this? But then again, like we said, it's not a race. You can just start from, and you might even go in say 500 meters, and you might just stop and start talking to your friend about what's happening, and just forget about it and just walk back again. That's all. We just want people to come there, thinking of it as an event, thinking of it as a point for them to be out there doing some kind of exercise, and that's about it. So, yeah.
Just to add on as well, we did think about shortening the route, but with biking, for example, if you just bike 1 kilometer down the road, you're done in 5 minutes. So we were thinking a longer route, it can enable bikers to go with their families. They can go bike for an hour. If you wanted to just start at Lake Ontario Park, walking with your family, you could walk along the water, turn around and come back. You could enter again from Henderson Boulevard by Jim Beattie Park. You could walk to Lemoyne's Point from there and enjoy Lemoyne's Point. So our thinking was not to keep it short, just to make it so everyone could use it, so the bikers could use it. Someone could go on a training run and run for 10 kilometers.
Thank you very much. All right, pitch number 8, our last pitch, is Seagull. Seagull is an AI-driven website that transforms phones and webcams into eyes for those with visual impairment. Where's our team? Where are they? Pretty sure they're here somewhere. Just, while we wait, I would just say, some of the ideas here today, their alignment with our strategic plan have been really quite profound, and we're again very blessed to have several councillors. Councillor Stephen has joined us as well. I'm sure she's very interested in that last presentation as it runs right through her district. Unfortunately, you don't have a vote in this, but certainly the concept is very appealing. Here we go. The guys were just doing some prepping. All right, team number 8, come on up. away.
Good morning, everyone. We're Team Seagull. We're very honored to be here today to present to you all. So without further ado, let's get started. As we gather today, let's address a pervasive social issue that silently affects many, vision impairment. To put that into perspective, globally, over 50 million people are completely without sight, with numbers of people having low sight being much, much higher. Transitioning to Canada, that number narrows down to 1.5 million, with Ontario alone accounting for roughly 681,000 individuals. In Kingston, our local fabric includes about 5,000 individuals with vision loss. Notably, many are without the support of rehab services that are essential for independence and quality of life.
I'm often reminded by this quote on technological change. It highlights that technology does not automatically improve, but rather only improves with the hard work of many coming together to create change. The personal computer highlights this fact fairly well. In 1984, Apple released its Macintosh. With an 8 megahertz processor and 128 kilobytes of RAM, it was the most advanced personal computer of the time. Since then, the personal computer has seen immense improvements in both space and speed compared to the floppy disks of past. Sadly, the same cannot be said for assistive technologies. For thousands of years, the walking stick has been used as a fundamental aid. However, its basic function and design has remained unchanged. On another front, service animals have provided companionship and assistance for many. But that requires extensive training and resources that are not always readily available.
We firmly believe that we've created a special and truly unique application, and that's because we have applied and brought accessibility to those who previously haven't had it. Our mission and our goal is to finally give those who are visually impaired an opportunity to see. So our application begins with the user speaking with our app. The audio file is then sent to a conversational model, which will transcribe that audio into text. And while the user talks to our app, our application simultaneously takes multiple photos, an array of photos of their surroundings. This gives our application awareness of what's around them and allows the user to finally speak to something that can actually respond to them. Both the text and the vision or the images are then sent to a large language model and a vision model. They work simultaneously together to create a deep and complex response that will basically outline exactly what they need. They need to see and they need an answer. Finally, of course, they can't read anything because they are unfortunately using a device. And so our voice synthesizer will then create a high quality response using audio, making the entire process vision-free, making it very accessible to those who are visually impaired. We've also provided context awareness. This means that our application learns about the user. Everything that they do, everything that they ask, it learns and it learns their habits. We've also added GPS features so that users don't have to navigate between apps and they can just use the GPS on our app. Now, I believe our app is quite complex, and I apologize if I bored you, but I think our demo might provide a much better explanation for what we do. So, is it okay if you, whoever has the mouse? Oh, it's up there. You click your full screen.
I have medication in front of me. Can you tell me what this is?
There is a medication bottle labeled as Mylan Pantoprazole, with instructions to take 1 tablet once daily.
There's a bunch of money on the table. Can you count how much it is?
The visible money consists of a $20 bill, a $5 bill, one $1 coin, and 3 quarters, which adds up to $26.75.
I just got a new piece of mail. Can you tell me what it is?
It's an advertisement offering a chance to win a trip to George Street Pub and promoting an 18 ounces Bud Light beer for $5.99 from a place called Swiss Chalet. The ad also includes a QR code for a discount on your first online order. Please be cautious with any personal information if you decide to scan the QR code or participate in the program. promotion.
Can you tell me where the QR code is on the piece of paper in front of me?
The QR code is located at the bottom of the piece of paper on the red background to the right side. There are no hazards in its vicinity.
I've come outside.
To be done with caution.
I'm in front of a stove. I need to use a pan for the eggs I'm about to cook, and I don't know where it is. Can you tell me which part on the stove it's on?
The pan is on the front right burner of the stove. Please be cautious as there are other items on the stove that could be hot or cause obstruction.
Can you tell me which burner and which knob I have to turn the bottom right burner on?
To turn on the bottom right burner, use the knob on the right. Please ensure you turn it to the desired setting carefully, starting from the off position and moving clockwise to LO or higher as needed. Be sure to handle the knob gently to avoid accidentally turning it on too high.
I like my eggs well done. Is this egg ready yet?
The egg yolk appears runny and the whites are not fully set, indicating it may not be well done yet. Please exercise caution around the stove as it can be a burn hazard.
Does this egg look ready?
The fried egg has the white set and the edges are golden and crispy. It appears to be cooked through, so it seems ready to eat. Please be cautious around the stove and the hot pan. There is a broken step ahead with a sharp metal object protruding from it. It's a tripping hazard and can cause injury.
I just stepped on something sharp. What was it?
There are broken glass pieces scattered on the floor. Please be cautious and avoid the area to prevent any further injury. If possible, try to safely clean up the broken glass or have someone assist you.
Is there anything else in front of me that I should be aware of?
There are scattered pieces of cardboard on the ground, which could be slippery or cause tripping. Please proceed with caution.
So that was our demo, and I hope you guys got a good understanding and got to see exactly what our application does and how it can benefit those who are visually impaired. We chose a few daily tasks that are simple for people who are visual or who are able-bodied and can see very easily, but may be difficult for those who are visually impaired. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and thank you for listening.
Zerman?
Thank you. Great presentation. Appreciate the video. I could probably use some of that now for myself, actually, make sure I'm cooking things properly. I'm not the best cook out there, to be honest with you. So based on the demo, from what I see, so is this is fully developed? You've done this already? And it's ready to deploy, pretty much?
Yeah, we've actually put this all on a web application right now. So all the AI, all the tech of the back end is all complete. Of course, there are some nicks and cracks that we'd love to fix up and make it a little bit faster. We just haven't gotten to that part yet. But it is complete, and we did actually demo it live during a hackathon recently. I believe the mayor was there and got to see that.
Okay.
If you're interested, we could run it for you later. You could test it out yourself.
We'll see. And just a follow up to that, cost for maintenance, operational maintenance of the platform as you move forward.
So on our end, it's relatively cheap. Of course, running these models is not free, so anyone interested in running these would have to pay. And at the moment, they're not the cheapest, but as time progresses, things do get cheaper.
Elizabeth?
Really cool stuff. So the thousands of years where people have used a stick if you're visually impaired, and now you have a mobile phone. So can you comment on kind of the user interface or the user experience, so to speak? So that's part one. And part two is, can this work if it's not on a phone? Or is there another device that would be more hands-free, so to speak, if you were visually impaired?
So our general idea is Seagull is meant to replace the entire collection of what people typically use for assisted devices.
Yeah, so about your second question, where if there's any other device we're going to put this on to create more accessibility. We believe that a mobile device is probably going to be the best device for people to use. Of course, we can maybe put this on smaller devices with cameras and just audio, but at the moment, a majority of people have mobile devices, and so putting them on mobile devices is sort of the best way and path to go on. And may I ask you to repeat your first question?
Sure. It's just the thousands of years where people are used to the stick and sort of that haptic experience, if you will, of touching the cardboard instead of. So have you given any thought to the transition, but also the reality of maybe I don't want to let go of my stick and I'm going to have my phone, which makes it a bit more challenging to have both on the go at the same time?
Of course, and I totally agree. We totally agree with you. Something like a stick will definitely still be used for people who are visually impaired because they, of course, might want to feel what's around them. Our application is best used in scenarios where a stick isn't really applicable. So, for example, with the eggs in the stove, it's quite difficult for someone who's visually impaired to see whether or not the eggs that they have on the stove are completely cooked. Another example may be maybe they forgot their stick or they're just getting out of bed or whatever, for whatever reason they don't have it on them, at least they have an accessible device that they can use for the meantime before they get their haptics back.
Rob? I think the concept is fantastic, really kind of exciting. The first thing that came to mind is building on some of these other questions is maybe I do want a stick or I want to be hands-free. Have you thought about a Bluetooth device, a GoPro? Like someone could put a GoPro, they're very popular, and have that as your interface, and then I could not only cook my egg, but I could use my hands to flip the egg too. So has that been contemplated or tested yet?
Yeah, there's a lot of cool tricks we could do with actual hardware to get things into users' hands as fast as possible. Mobile app's probably the best way to go. More specialized hardware, things like LiDAR sensors, infrared sensors, have more accurate results, feed that data into these AIs. Makes for really accurate sort of positioning, localization. It's great stuff.
Your worship.
Yeah, really, really interesting idea, guys. Love the demo. I'm curious to know, like, through learning, could it come to the point where it could give you information unprompted? So everything there is you had to pause and ask the question. And I'm just wondering, is particularly for habitual movements or other habits, that it would basically just be able to prompt you without you actually having to ask the question first?
Yeah, of course, and that's actually what the end goal would be, is for the application to constantly watch and constantly be your eyes while you navigate the real world. The only problem with that at this particular moment is just that using these models are quite expensive, but as Gates said, as time goes on, they're going to get cheaper, right? So when they do get cheaper and they become more financially feasible, it will most likely be that we will stream constantly without having to have a button pushed and a prompt asked.
How accurate is the tech, and what are the chances that my eggs are actually going to end up overcooked?
With that question, may I ask you a question, and that is, have you used GPT-4 yet?
Yes, I have.
Is it accurate?
I'd say mostly, yeah.
Mostly. Well, with that being said, then I guess we could say that ours is mostly right too, because we're moving with the rest of the AI industry, and so we would have to kind of follow their footsteps. We are unfortunately not on GPT-5 yet.
Yeah, I'm curious, like in your piloting, did you see errors or hallucinations or things along those lines?
So everything in that video was recorded in one take, like one clip at a time,
Okay.
no re-records.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Last question, Jim? Just to build on that last point, though, I'm wondering, have you thought about, some sort of a certainty kind of component that you would say, right? Because if you say that risk is severity times likelihood of occurrence, and the likelihood of occurrence is misclassification, or and the severity is that you burn your hand or you run out and you step out in front of a car. Have you thought about some sort of a quote confidence, not in a statistical sense, but just as sort of an additional way of making sure that somebody can themselves then make the decision to accept that advice?
Right now, we actually have sort of implemented that with our vision. If our model isn't able to see something clearly, so if an image is blurry or it's not clear, it's being blocked, or there's some kind of fuzziness, it will actually let the user know that it's unsure and that the area might be unsafe.
That concludes our pitches. Now the hard work begins for our judges. You don't have an easy task. Some amazing presentations. To all of the teams, thank you very much for your hard work, and I really mean hard work. You have demonstrated incredible understanding of the needs of our community. You're thinking about what the future and how we use technology in new ways. Just so impressed. We do have lunch prepared for you in Memorial Hall, so please enjoy yourself. The panelists, the judges will adjourn to the mayor's office, and we'll do our best to pick the winners. So again, thank you very much, everybody.
like focus before you presented, focus on your own thing, and then after as well, for sure.
Oh, okay. Sure. So what do you want? Should we?
Everyone can kind of, he's at least working on the
No,
phone,
I know.
but you guys have to be in the
You guys
center.
want to showcase happening.
Yes, so maybe if you guys can kind of get behind your pads and just kind of move around the side. Okay.
All right, I think we've got just about everybody back. So I just want to say a couple things before we get going. I want to say a big thank you to all of the teams. You guys were incredible. Honestly, I think this was probably our strongest set of pitches that we've ever had. And I can tell you we had a long and vigorous discussion as a judging panel just because you made our job hard. And it was a great problem to have. I want to say this, that, I mean, I wish that we could have 8 winners here today because you're all deserving. But what I will say is this, that there's always room for a good idea. So for some of you, if you didn't win, your idea was amazing. It's just that maybe you just have to just keep refining it, stick with it, and be able to just put it forward again. Because honestly, every single one of you have potential to really transform our community and, quite frankly, I think like the world around you with your ideas. So just want to say thank you so much for that. So we had 8 pitches here today. So first we heard from Rentwise, from Jade, Beth, Evelyn, and Maria. And I can tell you that as judges, we love the focus on using technology to address an issue of social fairness, of using technology to level the playing field. We saw very broad applications about how this could really impact the community in a very positive way. Next, our second pitch, we heard from Green Haven Modular Housing, from Lucas, Ryan, and Dion. Boy, you guys are thinking big. We loved it. You've done your homework. Love the research you had done, looking at like the Finland model. Love the pairing of sustainability in with modular homes. There's no question that modular homes, we think, are, we're on the cusp of something here, and so you guys are just perfectly positioned to speak into that. So very well done. Pitch number 3, Foo Insecurity Fighters. Love the name. Thought that was awesome. Johir, Rishta, and Nathan. Such an interesting concept. Honestly, we had a vigorous discussion about, urban farming and vertical farming and aquaponics and how that technology can work. Loved addressing a key social issue on food security. Highly innovative, community-based, great work. Number 4, Bowab, from Evan, Joseph, and Emmett. Very unique, guys. A real interesting with the per-need basis. The opportunity to personalize a donation rather than just kind of dropping it off and not knowing what happens afterwards. The story you told about like the workforce development and how you're meeting a need to help somebody get back into the workforce, and just your research, you were prepared, you've done a lot of homework, and it really showed. Number 5, Resource Loop, Jerry, Akil, and Perucic. Boy, again, big ambition, big thinking. The circular economy, wanted to make Kingston kind of the first in Canada leader. Loved how you brought the Amsterdam model. Kudos to you in kind of bringing that forward. Really, really great first step. I mean, such a big issue, but really so transformative, and loved how you guys just sunk your teeth into it. Pitch number 6 was Dionisis. I couldn't believe that was an acronym. I almost fell off my chair when I saw that. You guys, that was incredible. Connor, Seth, and Michael, great job, guys. Definitely a worthy problem. A great idea for how technology can be used to address a key social issue, obviously drunk driving. We were even discussing as judges about using it, to detect when potholes or people were driving around it. And so our minds were going with the different applications for that technology. Pitch number 7, Sunday Flex. Honestly, such a simple but powerful idea. Community building, addressing cohesion. We loved it. We were already talking about, okay, how could we see something like that rolling out at the city? Loved, speaking to bring people together, and of course the health and wellness benefits as a whole. Just fantastic. So that was Anne, Luciano, and Merwin. Great job, guys. And then finally we had pitch number 8, which was Seagull, from Anthony, Yuchin, Gweth, and Owen. Again, we loved seeing how technology could be used to address a very human condition. Incredible potential, and really seeing, we think of the city's commitment to accessibility and how that can be used. Very well developed. The demo was awesome, right? A great way to illustrate that this wasn't just an idea, but something you guys actually could make to work. So, Man, oh man, tough, 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 tough. So, like I said, every one of these ideas, worthy in its own right, any one of you could easily have won it all. So just a reminder, and I'm sure most of you know this, but just to remind you, so there are two different prizes that we have available. The first prize is $5,000 in seed funding and admission through the DDQIC stream into the QU Venture program. So really just being able to refine your idea and then advance it and be able to pitch for further funding. And then the second prize that we have is the internship prize here at the city, where we will look to hire you guys on for the summer, obviously to work on your idea, but also put you to work on some of the other ideas that we have here as a city. Okay, so with that, the winner, first of the DDQIC Stream Prize, again, that's for $5,000 in seed funding and admission in the QU Venture program. The winner is Bowab. Congratulations, guys. Come on up. Okay, one of you guys gets to hold the plaque. All right. Fantastic. And then finally, the City Internship Prize. And again, lots of discussion amongst the judges on a number of different levels to figure out who would be the winner this year. Again, any one of you could have won this prize, but the winner of this year's Mayor's Innovation Challenge goes to Seagull. Seagull. Congratulations, guys. Congrats. We have the plaque. Who's the plaque? Oh, we need the plaque. You guys need to give us the plaque back, just for like 1 second. We use the same plaque for both prizes. Way to go, guys. Awesome. All right. Congrats. You just give it back to me. Awesome. Jim, did you want to say something? Come on. Yeah.
So congratulations to everybody. For the teams that were not successful in this competition, two things. We always the same we have is if the judges awarded you something, prove them right. If the judges didn't, prove them wrong. We'd be very happy to see you, go forward. What the other thing I wanted to say is just really encourage you to connect with the innovation centers in your respective schools. Okay, we really are trying to build a community of different innovation centers. There's a number of them at Queen's. DDQIC is certainly one, but please, do reach out. And same thing at St. Lawrence College as well. So. John Conrad and company in the Entrepreneurship Center that they have there. So just very much encourage you to do that. All of the ideas here, you've got potential to move forward. So this is just the start. Thank you.
Well said, Jim. Absolutely. So again, a big thank you to all of you. A big thank you to our judging panel. You guys were amazing. Great questions. Thank you to my city council colleagues that were here, to Amber and to Julia for all your work behind the scenes on this, and to Craig as well. Congratulations, guys, on a job well done. Please give yourself a big round of applause. Great job this year. Thanks so much.
And if I could just add a thanks to the DDQIC team too for the help on that. Virginia Seatsman.